Hi, everybody. I'm back. Oh my God. Talk about a mix of Montezuma's revenge and COVID. Isn't that a wonderful thing? Well, I've had my turn officially, and I've had it for 2 weeks. So I've missed everybody. Thank you so much for coming. I'm trying to get this so that I'm going to look straight at you here. Hmm. Let's see. Anyway, um, I almost stayed in my jammies today because, yeah, I'm still kind of recovering from that. I just wanted to say happy Tuesday. Welcome to Synchronicity, the next level paranormal. And I say that it's the next level paranormal because this isn't a show where anybody's trying to convince you that there are ghosts and Bigfoot and cryptids and aliens. We already know that those things exist. And this is a platform for people to come and congregate and talk about those things in a comfortable setting. So if you're not someone that believes in those sorts of things, this may be a little bit overwhelming for you. It is not the 101 class. It is the advanced podcast to talk about those sorts of things. Also, for any of you that don't know, I am an author. I currently have 4 books out, a 5th book coming out. I have Omnipresent, which is going to be a 5 book series. Books 1 and 2 are out. Book 3 will be out the beginning of next month. So there's Omnipresent, which was a story about a haunted house that was so haunted that I was never able to move into it. All of them are true stories. Then there's Omnipresent, What Happened Next, that talks about mental illness, attachments, addiction, what happened next, what happened to the people that I bought the house from, as well as the 3rd book, which is going to be Omnipresent, 111 Becca Dawn Drive, which is about a male ghost that was going from townhouse to townhouse, pulling down women's underwear in the middle of the night and doing other things. So I also have released The Colors of Heaven, which is a beautiful story about death and dying, hoping to take the stigma of death and dying away. We do basically shed our bodies and go on. There's not of death in anybody that's galactically inclined. It's all connected. The spiritual part with that galactic part of it too. All of that comes together at that time. And I've also had another book out called The Gap: What Else Your Adolescent and Teen Needs to Know. I was actually looking for a book for my own 14-year-old daughter and couldn't find one. That kind of everything left off with the birds and the bees and good touch, bad touch, and then jumped into like the human trafficking stuff. So there was that gap there, and I wanted to write a book talking about things that, teenagers, like their first date, going out on your first date. You don't want to wear stinky sneakers because I don't care how gorgeous you are. There's nothing sexy about stinky sneakers, and especially in a car with windows up and raining outside. So you don't want to wear stinky sneakers, and what to do if a condom breaks. Not that I'm encouraging your child to have sex, but if they are, it tells them how to protect themselves and what they can do in situations like that, as well as hygiene and making good choices and friends and finances and things like that. So it gives them a lot of other cool tools too. I'm here every Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern to 10 o'clock Eastern time. That's 7 Central. And of course, then it continues, taking an hour off to all the way to the California side. This coming Tuesday, I have Brandon Cooper as the guest on my show, and been looking forward to having him. Also, for anybody that's interested, I am currently taking appointments. I'm doing consultations. I'm booking consultations for anybody that want. I've gotten inundated hundreds and hundreds of emails of people that are calling out for help. And for me to be able to help them, I can't work at the same time because it takes hours and hours to help get these people on track and help connect them up with people that can actually help them. So yes, I do charge a small fee. Don't charge to come out and clear your house and things like that. But I get you in the right direction and kind of give you the prelude of what you need to prep and get ready, for those people to come in and help you. I can be reached at Omnipresent, OMNIPRESENT .book @gmail.com. This will be mentioned again at the end of the show. If anybody wants to have a consultation with me over the phone, or we can do it over Skype, face to face, however you want to, because there are a lot of people out there that are under spiritual attack and have addiction problems because of it, and have pain problems for that matter. And their children are being affected adversely, and their whole family and their lives. So just to try to help people that way. So tonight I have a very special guest. I'm so excited to have her. Her name is Charlotte Sanchez Cosa. She is with California Haunts. She's a big deal, people. I'm definitely going to have her talking about some things that she's done. She's been a working journalist and photojournalist for over 25 years. She's won several awards during her career for her work. Woohoo! She also started her career at the Sacramento City College in, of course, Sacramento, California. And she held the position of reporter, also a position of advertising she did advertising manager, sports editor, managing editor, and chief editor. She then also did several other things and also ended up in magazine publication, as well as she also does film. So she's very multifaceted. She did grow up in a haunted house, so she's a sensitive. She's an empath, like many of us are, and can relate very much to some of the things that we've gone through and help put some insight in on that, and also some help and validation for people that just are like, have that aha moment, that they can relate to what she's saying. So I'm going to let her come in and tell more about herself. Everybody, I want you to meet Charlotte Sanchez Cosa from California Haunts.
How's it going, Lynn?
Hi, I'm so happy to see you. I was really, really looking forward to this. I was hoping that flu didn't take me down another weekend. So, another week, so that I wouldn't, because I had to cancel 2 other guests. So, I could have you on. But I'm really, really excited to have you. You do so many things. You're just multifaceted, and you're very, very well respected in your community and in your field. I would like to let you go ahead and kind of tell about how, things started for you.
Well, as far as this paranormal gig, as I call it, I've had my team since probably 2007. But I grew up in a haunted house, and my family is one of those deals where my family thought I had a very vivid imagination. But I was seeing things in my house, and the problem when I would see things, it was all shadow people. I would see things out my window at night. I would see things in my bedroom coming towards my bed and things like that. But it was weird because I guess as I got older, my mind changed somehow, my senses, to where I started to see light beings in my house. But for the first like, I would say 8-9 years, everything I saw was dark. It was always a shadow, something reaching down for me, from like the upper bunk bed. There would be hands reaching down for me, or something would come out of the wall, and I was scared, and I would tell my family, and I didn't realize that my mother had abilities too. She wouldn't admit to them because she was afraid of them. And they would sit there and just go, "No, it's your imagination." Da, da, da. And I just thought, okay, fine. But then when I started to be home alone more, because I was a latchkey kid, so when I started to be home alone, I would see stuff. So I came to the realization that, okay, I'm seeing these things, but why? Then later on, when I decided to do a California Haunts television show for public access TV, we started the same time that Ghost Hunters came out.
Oh, and wow.
When I started hanging around this particular team from here in Sacramento, API, there were a lot of psychics on the team. And when you get around other mediums and psychics, any abilities that you have increase. And I didn't know this. So I would go to these meetings, and I'd be driving home, and flashlights and stuff would be turning on in my car.
Yep.
And I'd call them and go, "What's going on?" There's stuff, And so they were kind of laugh at me and go, "No, deal with it." So I tried to deal with it. Thank God for Sylvia Brown on Montel, because if it hadn't been for her, I probably would have been a wreck. So I would watch her in the afternoons. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, she was great back then.
Just her attitude about it, right? So
yes, absolutely.
Then I came to terms with it, and I started to see more and more. It didn't bother me. It didn't bother me after that. Where to the point was once I got away from doing the TV show for 2 years, I turned around and started my own team, and then I would see stuff like when I worked in one of the most haunted towns in California, in Placerville. So I was doomed from the outset. And so every time I would go, like Saturday would hit or Friday would hit, I was going to go on an investigation. I would see whoever we were going to investigate before I went
Oh,
out.
wow.
And I remember like Preston, that used to be a reform school for boys, and the
Hmm.
building looks so gothic. They used it in the Dracula movie that they held these boys in. And there was a woman that was killed by the boys on the premises, an older woman. And I was going into the restroom. It was like the day before I was supposed to go to Preston. I was going into the women's restroom where I work, and I felt somebody over my shoulder. So I looked back, and there was this gray-haired woman in one of those like old smocks, like the old ladies used to wear, and it
Uh-huh.
was her. It was her. So then I came to terms with it all. But yeah, it's been an interesting journey. I can tell whether ghosts, even if I can't see them, I can tell whether it's a male or female just by how heavy they are, how heavy they feel. Because I get like the spider webs in my arms,
Hmm.
and I can feel them. So it's been an interesting journey. And like I said, I've been ghost hunting forever. My team is 45 strong. We're up and down the state of California, and
That's
we do
great.
we do a lot of work, a lot of work.
Now, some of the work that you do, I know that you do investigations, but do you also do clearings?
We do.
Oh,
We
that's
also do.
that's good to know, everybody.
Yeah, we
California
also do
haunts.
cleansings. We'll do cleansings, but the caveat that I have with cleansings, guys, is that we just can't come out and do a cleansing because there's Native American spirits around here. You got a bunch of everything, so we have to get out there and find out what we're dealing with first, because not one
Exactly.
size fits all.
That's absolutely true. And do you also find, sometimes certain people's habits kind of draw them in and they
Yes.
like to stay there, and people, it's a waste. I mean, people have to understand the time and the energy that's actually put into it. I mean, when you're finished clearing something like
Yep.
that, especially something demonic, you are exhausted,
Yes.
like tired that you could sleep for 14 hours straight. You're so tired you can hardly function, or you don't even care if you eat.
Hmm.
But the thing is that people have to realize that if they're going to call on somebody, they also have to do their homework, which is why I mentioned the consultation thing,
Right.
even because people are calling and, oh, yeah, I do this, this, and this. And it's like, well, that's why you have a problem. If your house isn't clean, if your house is cluttered, they love that. So
Yep.
there are certain things that they have to do and habits that they have to change ahead of time
Hmm.
for people like yourself to come in and have your work be more effective.
Absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And since the TV shows have been coming out, I'm not going to name who, but since some of these TV shows, every call we get practically is come cleanse my house. It's a demon. And it's like, well, you don't know that.
Yes, that's true. It's
You
not
don't
always
know it's a
one.
demon. Yeah, it's not always a demon. When we go through a house, we have a 100-question questionnaire, and somebody will sit down and talk to them. In the meantime, I'm walking around or somebody else is walking around, and we're looking at the windows, we're looking at the carpeting, we're looking at the walls to see how stuff echoes in the house. Because it could be anything that they're hearing voices, it could be from outside, So we're looking at all those factors. So the initial investigation for us takes about probably an hour and a half because we're marking everything down room by room, And but it's very thorough. It's thorough enough to the point where I can go out and and this is the thing that bugs me because people think it's all like it's on TV, and it's not. You don't do that. We get the initial investigation. I take it back. I fill out all the paperwork that I need to fill out, and then for my investigators and not my psychics don't know anything about the investigations. I give my investigators show them where all the high EMF is in the house ahead of time.
Oh,
That way,
wow.
when they go out on investigation night, they're not chasing like high EMF from refrigerators and stuff. So if they get
Yes.
something that's not on the list, they know they need to investigate it. So that's one of the things I do. I streamlined everything, and then I do have a remote psychic, Nancy Matz, that I work with. That all I have to do is send her a picture of the front of the house, and she can do a read for me, and I can get an idea of what's there. And then what will happen is a different psychic will go out on the night of the investigation, and I found that they're 98% accurate together.
Wow.
Without talking to each other. And that's how we do it. Just like our cameras, we can go with reports. And this is the thing, guys. Ghosts move around. They're not going to jump through hoops on command.
That's
So
right.
we get out there with our cameras, and somebody will say, "Oh yeah, it's really active in the back bedroom, and maybe you need to put a camera up there." I'll let the psychic do a walkthrough first, and let her come out and go, "No, I think we need to put the camera over here. This is where you're going to get more activity and stuff." So it's a drawn out procedure. Plus, I've got debunkers on my team. I've got people that are contractors. I've got police officers on my team. People that can go through and they know what to look for. Like rats, I don't know if anybody's aware of what mice can do to your walls. Where you might think you have pounding in your walls, you think it's something paranormal, and it turns out you've got mice, but you may not know it. The only way to find that out is you have to use a fluorescent light, because their dare I say, their urine leaves a trail along the walls and stuff, so you can pick it up because it's fluorescent. It glows.
Wow, that's amazing. And it makes sense. And sometimes too, people, if they've got clutter and they've got cockroaches,
Yep.
cockroaches can be noisy at night. You know
Yes.
what I'm saying? And so you're right. You definitely have to rule it out. It sounds like your team is just so well-rounded and amazing. So please tell us more.
It took me a long time to get there. Like everybody else, we started out doing just going to hotels, haunted hotels and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then, because I didn't feel comfortable doing residentials until I felt we were ready. Because when you go into somebody's house, you're dealing with their mental states.
That's true.
And,
That's another thing.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just uncomfortable for me. That's why when I see these teams that go out and ha ha ha, we're going to go do a residential, I cringe, because I think you need an experienced team to go out on these things. Like this one old woman, this one older lady we were dealing with in the Bay Area out here. It turns out that she was seeing all kinds of stuff in her house, and it turns out they changed her medications.
Oh yeah, that'll do it.
And we were able to sort through that. I had a gentleman out in Woodland that swore up and down he had a demon in his house, and I'm walking through the house doing on the first run, and I see all these religious paintings and stuff on the walls, and I asked the wife, I said, "Are these all blessed?" And she goes, "Yeah, they're all blessed." And I said, "Well, if you had a demon in this house, those wouldn't be on the wall."
Yeah, that's for sure.
Starters. So as it turned out, there were two ghosts in this house. There was one ghost in this house, and it was a poltergeist thing.
Oh,
because
okay.
they were taking care of their disabled son together. They were an older couple, and he would get really angry. I mean, he would cuss people out, the husband, and all this was going on. A real pushy guy. And I thought, well, there's guys like that, but and they come to find out that he had a brain tumor a while back that got removed. And as I started to listen to them and what was going on in the house, I said, is there any chance you can get him scanned again? Because something's not right. I don't get a good vibe off him. And as it turned out, he had another brain tumor forming.
Oh wow.
So he was hallucinating and seeing stuff, and he was yelling at his kids. And then in the meantime, this house had been on farmland, and from what we got out of the newspapers and what our psychic got, was that there was a young man living in this house that was a drug addict, and his parents were trying to kick him out of the habit. He burned the house down, not realizing his mother was in the house.
Oh.
So he had a lot of guilt, but the problem was he was afraid of the old guy, because the old guy was yelling at the boys, and so he was there to defend the boys. So we had to do a cleansing on that one and cross him over. And then I don't think they've had another problem, because he ended up going to the hospital and getting all that taken care of.
Wow, that's amazing. Would you mind explaining to everybody what the difference between a demon and poltergeist is? Because some people think that they're one and the same, and they're not.
Poltergeist, the definition has changed over the years. The one that I know is that, okay, if you go to bed after you're arguing with your husband,
mm-hmm.
and you don't resolve that argument, all that energy is kept inside of you. And I've had cases where the husband and wife have done that, and then all of a sudden they've got banging in the walls, and the children are screaming because there's apparitions. That's because when you argue, like I said, when you argue like that, all that pent-up anger is there. So when you fall asleep at night, that's when it comes out, because that's your twilight sleep. And poltergeist activity can be caused by that. It could also be caused, restless spirits can do it too. But I think that I know there's a new definition for it. I just can't think of it right now. But there's a difference. A demon, and here's another way that we judge what's a demon, or what's not of this earth, and what's a ghost hunt.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that can lift or move more than 6 pounds isn't a ghost. Because with poltergeist, what you're going to get is you're going to get your keys being moved. Mm-hmm. Maybe something will get knocked off a table. A demon, you're going to get tables moved. You're going to get, like this one house, a guy never told us that he saw anything dark in the house until after we did the investigation. And he came out and said, "Oh, I forgot to tell you." And I said, "What?" He says, "Something ripped the dryer door off and threw it across the laundry room."
Oh, gee, that's not important to
Yeah,
mention.
and I went,
Yeah.
"Thanks." Yeah. But that was a weird case because we could hear the furniture being thrown around in the other rooms when we were in the house. I pulled everybody out. I was like, you know what? This guy lied. In the first place, he lied to me, which is a no-no. You got to be honest. When groups come out or when Lynn comes out to your house, you have to be honest with the
Yeah.
investigators. You
And
have
I have to be honest too. I don't mess with the demons. As Al Santoriga says, it's not within my pay grade.
Yeah.
Unless it's a family member or friend, because no, no,
Yeah.
I won't. I don't like having to do that part, so I prefer not to.
Like that one I was talking about where the dryer drawer got yanked off. I looked at my team and I said, "Let's go right over our heads. I'm not going to deal with this."
Mm-hmm.
Of course, but at that time we had a shaman on staff, so then we called her and said, "Okay, I'm turning this over to you because we're not going to deal with this stuff." I've been on probably about 4 demonic cases in the last 15 years. You don't see a lot of them, but when you do,
They're bad.
They're bad. Yeah, they're bad. I even have an EVP from one where somebody is warning the angel Gabriel, and I have it
Wow.
really clear where the voice says, "Gabriel, watch out." That one was demonic. But I mean, you have to go out and you have to be really careful as an investigator, and people have to be as honest as they can, because because there's people that'll be out there that you interview that want to test you.
Yes, that's right.
And that's the key. That's why they don't tell you key information. Just like you guys use tarot cards or anything like that, and people will out and out lie and say, "No, we don't." And then during the investigation, because we're looking at everything, we're looking inside the closets, we're looking at everything, and you'll find a Ouija boards up in the closet.
Oh,
You
I
find
know.
something, and it's like, it's not good.
Speaking of those, they just came out with a pink one for Barbie and a blue one for Ken in 2022 for kids. Isn't that insane? You have to be 16 years old to drive, 21 to drink, but you can be 8 to open a portal and let demons come in.
Oh yeah, and the other thing I found too, speaking of the pink Ouija board, I've seen them over at Barnes and Nobles. They're for little. They have one for little girls, and it's
pink. And they have a blue one for boys. It's the Ken doll.
Yeah. So that's what that is.
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. I would love to torch all of them. Now, granted, there are some people that like to use a Ouija board. They know what they're doing. They know how to open. They know how to close the portals behind them. But when you're playing it as a game, you don't know how to do that.
No.
And you get that shock moment, and of course, it makes the negative entities that are coming through even feed off of it more, and gives them the ability to do more physical acts. So,
and the other problem with that too is they may not hit you that day. This could be This could take place 5-10 years down the line, and you don't know why things are happening around you, or you get deathly ill or something. You don't realize why, and it's because you had that contact.
That's true. That's true. That's why I don't do them. Like it's beyond my pay grade too. So I try, and again, only if it's a family member. So I try to avoid them. Wow, what a perspective and a way to look at it. Do you find too, when you go into people's homes, sometimes it's easier not to have the people in there because you've got the husband and the wife whispering together in the kitchen. You're like, did you hear that? Did you see that? And what they don't realize is when we go in, we have to almost put like a force field around us that we have to maintain constantly because we are under attack. They don't want us there. They're attacking our auric field. We have to consistently keep it without openings or tears so that we don't go home with attachments. But when you've got somebody in the kitchen feeding that fear together with one another, it makes the spirits stronger and the attacks harder on us.
Yes,
so
it does.
Yeah,
it does. And it's so hard to tell somebody, if you want to go to a movie, feel free to go, let us do our thing. Because I don't blame people for not having strangers in their house, for leaving strangers. But I mean, it helps us immensely because whatever's there, unless it's attached to them and it follows them, whatever's in that house is going to be there. And so we can track it down a lot easier and safer, like you say. And just like when Lynn was talking about the exhaustion, I've taken hits. I've taken what I call psychic hits. And I mean, it is just incredible, the fatigue you get with it.
Yep. And it's not an explainable kind of fatigue unless you've experienced. It is a bone tiredness to the bone.
Mhm.
You just can't even really describe it in words. But I know that for people that have done clearance, I've had to call in sick to work the next day, because I couldn't get out of bed. I was too tired. I wanted to sleep all day,
Oh yeah.
and you're right too about the attacks that can come later on,
Mhm.
too. So, people have to watch out. There's also an intelligence about these spiritual beings as well, that, you don't mock them, because they get it if you're doing that, and they will come after you. If
Mhm.
it's not today, it might be tomorrow or when you're sleeping.
Mhm.
But, you do have to have that a level, not that you have to like them being there, but you have to have a respect and to treat them the way that you would want to be treated until you can get them out of there. You don't.
Absolutely. Well, I've had cases where I have gone out, and it was one in particular here in Sacramento that was a low-level demon, and everything went fine during the investigation. So I came home about a week later and started to go through all the evidence review and all that, and filling out the paperwork. And I ended up with scratches on both my arms because it came into my house. So I mean, you have to keep your guard up, because sometimes I have a tendency to let my guard down when I'm at
Mm-hmm.
home. But you, especially after an investigation, you have to keep your guard up all the time, all the time.
That is so true. Yeah. Well, and we do anyway, because most of us that are drawn to this kind of work, we're not reincarnates, we're incarnates. So we didn't come back here because we had to. We
Mm-hmm.
came back here because we chose to be here during this particular time for whatever reason. Therefore, our lights are extremely bright. And a lot of times, lost souls
Mm-hmm.
mistake us as angels, so they'll follow.
Mm-hmm.
And the demons want to dub out the light because it exposes the darkness.
Mm-hmm.
So we do constantly have to be aware of our arc fields and make sure that they're healthy and whole and no tears in them, and to take care of them. Your salt baths, your ammonia baths, there's a list of things that you could, that you can do to clear that. But yeah, you definitely have to take care, and you can't say, "Oh, gee, I'm just so tired. I just want to lay down." No, you
Yeah.
need to take that bath,
Yeah.
or you're going to regret it.
I
So,
wear I make my own medicine bags.
do you
Yes, so I wear one around the neck every time I do an investigation.
do you sell those medicine bags?
I'm going to be teaching a class Saturday how to make them, but I'm
Are
thinking about
you?
selling them
Yes,
because
so
you
you
can make
should.
them yourself. Because I mean, really, when you make one, I know the Native Americans, and I'm not trying to take away from Native Americans, because I have a friend that's a medicine man. But I'm half Mexican. My grandmother was a curandera, so she,
Hmm.
and so I figure I can teach people how to make these things, because it's pretty much what your belief is. When you make it,
Hmm.
you got to put your belief in there, whether it's going to keep you safe or not. Because some of it involves, like, you have to have animal for a live dog, so sniff sniff sniff, or
Hmm.
bones, chicken smut, chicken bone. I mean, bird bones from a bird, right? Chicken, whatever you have. And then a lot
Yes,
of the gemstones mean something. And
yes,
if you
they
do
do.
research on gemstones, they do. Like, there's even ones that'll help your kidneys if you believe in it. And the whole point is
Yes,
to believe.
cardiac and everything. Yep.
Yeah, so you can turn around and get the gemstone that you think will help protect you when you're out in the field investigating, or getting involved with something, and then make a medicine bag. And then the key is, with it, you tie the knot in there and never open up the knot, because it takes the magic away. But it's all up here in how you believe.
That's wonderful. So when are you having that class? Everybody, write this
Saturday
down.
Saturday at 3 p.m. Pacific. You have to go to the California Haunts Paranormal Investigation Team meetup to sign up. You have to join up over there. There's no fee to join up over there, but it is listed on the calendar over there.
That is awesome. And what a nice thing to offer people for free. I noticed that somebody had come up on the screen and had mentioned to use sage and cedar. Um, Sage and cedar is a good thing to use as a neutralizer and balancing. But in my experience, and I'm not saying that anybody's wrong,
Mm-hmm.
because sage simply pisses off demons. It tickles them. It does not send them away. You have to have something much, much stronger than sage. Sage is a good, like, micro metastasis of paranormal after you've cleared everything, go through with that sage to neutralize and balance any of the little pieces. It'll also help usher lost souls and things out of there. But when you are dealing with something darker and more malevolent, sage is not strong enough. You have to have some dragon's blood, some ammonia, I mean, there are other things, and make sure you've got something iron on you as well. That's why they used to put the iron fences around graveyards, was to hold all the dead in there. So, those sorts of things. But yeah, I definitely want to know about your class. I'm looking at the time frame, so it would be like 7 p.m. my time on Saturday, because I want to learn how to do that. And I really think that you should make them and sell them, because you know all of the details that need to be done, and you will do them correctly. Because what people don't realize is they could be like whispering, oh, keep me safe, da 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 da, and then in their mind they're thinking, but the man next door tried to rob me getting into my car, and they're still whispering. They don't realize that thought is the same as speech, and it negates the what they're doing. So they have to be very focused and clear. And somebody like yourself that has so much experience with it, it would be, I would buy them from you, definitely.
You just made a really good point with people, because after you clear the house, right, after you get the investigation done, it's so hard to explain to people that don't think about it ever again. You can't think about what happened, but it's hard, because I know we've had to go out and go back sometimes, because people will start to remember back, and then it draws it back in. And that's the other hard part of it, is that when we come out to do a cleansing like that, or when Lynn goes out and does a cleansing like that, I know it's hard. I know it's difficult, because I know I've got activity here, and I think about the activity here. I'm just as bad as anybody else, but I have nothing here that'll harm me, so I'm not worried about it. But it's just so hard, to try and block that out of your thoughts.
It is. And it's also, and again, I totally agree with you. And again, it goes back to, you've also got to make some life changes. If you're a porn addict, I got news for you. You think you've got that moment alone with yourself? You got a whole fan club watching with you, and maybe you should be charging for what you're doing while you're looking at it. Because even in the case of alcohol and addiction, there are lost souls that have chosen not to cross over, so they have remained earthbound. And you would be shocked going into, and I know you've seen this too, Charlotte, a lot of times, like the mafia that linger in bars and stuff, and they don't want to cross over because they don't want to meet up with their wives because they were with their mistresses. I mean, so many times, if you have a gift of sensory, like Charlotte and I both have, you can walk into even a sports bar and you can sense them or actually see. I went into a sports bar one time, and there was this couple sitting there getting all romantic with each other. And this lady had like something on the rocks. So it was like all liquor in there. And there was this headless dead man standing next to her, holding his head on the bar, with the guy's nose was up over her drink, and it was, his nostrils were wiggling, trying to sniff the fumes of the alcohol. So when people like Charlotte and I go in and help you clear your house, you can't go back and roll the red carpet out because you want to continue your addictions, your porn, all of those things, or you're cheating on your spouse, or all of those things. If you really want them gone, you need to clean up your act too. So,
that goes also if you have somebody in your house that's always angry.
Yes.
Somebody that has an attitude, that's going to draw the negative too, so there's all kinds of things to look out for. You just reminded me with your story about the Brookdale Lodge.
Did I?
I remember walking in there, because there's like 99 ghosts in the Brookdale Lodge, and the majority are gangsters from Prohibition. And I remember walking in there, and that scene in The Shining where he opens up the ballroom door, and then they're all in there drinking and partying. When I opened the front door at the Brookdale Lodge, that's what I saw. They were all in there clanking their cocktail glasses and stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember, because that's when I was still filming the TV show, when we were filming the psychic walking around, and I says, well, who was going to talk to us? She says, well, they really don't want to talk to us. And I said, well, why is that? She says, because they're afraid their wives will find out about their mistresses.
Yes. Yes, that's so true. And they don't want to be crossed over either.
Yeah, they don't want to be crossed over. And a good case of that, perfect example of that is the Woodland Opera House out here. There was a fire like every old town, older town. There was a fire in like the 1800s,
Hmm.
and it burned down Main Street, and a lone firefighter went into the big opera house, to check it out to make sure nobody was in there, and somehow he got locked in. And what he didn't realize at the time was the guy that had set the fires in the town was in the same building with him. So he gets crushed because when you go in there, you get to a certain corner of the top, and the roof came down on him and pushed him down in the basement. But you can feel the pain in your head. But what's interesting is that during our investigation, because we've been there like 4, 5, 6 times, we have communicated with him and the other gentleman, and found out that the guy that got crushed, the fireman that got crushed, won't cross over because the guy that set the fire is there. And the guy that set the fire there doesn't want to cross over because he's afraid. So they're spending eternity chasing each other around this building.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
And it's really active. I mean, they've got a stage over there with a piano on the end, and the piano will get moved from side to side on the stage. There's always messing around with the lighting. There's always somebody walking around up in the rafters of the proscenium stage, down in the basement area where they have the dressing rooms. There's a story, because they used to have seamstresses down there, and there's a story where they had sewn these costumes and went to lunch and came back and all the thread was removed out of the costumes.
Wow.
So it's a really, really active place. So it's not only those two, you've got actors and actresses that are there that are still performing, So it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. And this one actress, who's a Polish actress, I had contact with her quite a few times. I go to Sacramento Theater Company because she performed on almost every theater up and down NorCal. And she was there, and she actually asked for me.
Oh, really? How? I mean, well, that's amazing. That is amazing.
I didn't think they would that would happen. That's when I was still just starting out doing this stuff. And one of the mediums came up and says, "Hey, Madam's looking for you."
That is, that's actually a compliment to you and the way that you present to them, because, there's so many times that you get investigators going in there and they got this little light thing on, and it's like, ooh, touch blinky. And they touch blinky, the light goes off, and they're like, it blinked. Here, touch blinky again. So they touch blinky again, and it goes off. Oh, touch blinky again. And by that time, the spirit's telling them to get out.
Yeah.
Because, a lot of times people treat these spirits as if they're ignorant. Mm-hmm. And some of these people are very well-educated people that have just chosen not to cross over. And you are a guest in their house.
Yes.
So, and if you had someone walk into your house, you would respond the same way, especially if they're rude, you know? So it's a compliment to you that the spirit realm acknowledges you, and they respect you. They like you because you have treated them with kindness.
Right. It's like you say, it's all about respect, and they may be dead, but they're still existing in their mind. So you have to act accordingly with it.
That is so true. And that's an important thing. You see, and I'm not calling people out, but you do see a lot of shows where this tough guy goes in there and scratch me. They're like challenging the souls that are in there, and eventually he does get his scratch. But they really don't realize that persona does not come across as being tough and confident. It comes across as being scared and angry. So it actually exacerbates the problem, more so. So, yeah, I yes, definitely. I agree with you.
I've learned that being in a nicer personality going in, or attitude, if you want to say it, pays off more than being aggressive with them.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with you that way. And what's funny too, and I'm sure that you'll agree with this, is, and if you go in and it's something malevolent, they will avoid. If you go in with kindness and a loving demeanor, they will avoid you like you're a bad stench in the room, because they don't have the capacity to have that emotion. They feed on the darker emotions, the sadness, the fear, the anger, the depression, the chaos that's created, and the rippling effect in the families with that. But when you go in with a loving heart, they don't know what to do with that, and they will run from you. So
I,
you keep.
I learned early on from one of the when I was still filming. I learned early on from one of the psychics on that team
Mhm.
that if you get one that's angry, give them a flower.
Aw.
So they can remember, and mentally, of course, they're not going to be able to smell it really. But mentally, if you think about maybe say you give them a rose in your mind,
Mhm.
and then you put that in your head of how a rose smells, it calms them down. It calms them down right away.
And they can smell them, by the way.
Okay.
When people, I found that my mother and I communicate sometimes, and you do keep all of your senses when you die. Whether you cross over or not, you still have the ability to see, to hear, to smell. So yeah, so yeah, what a sweet thing to. I will do that myself from
Yeah,
now
because it
on.
calms them down. See, I've
It's
had
great.
conflicting from different psychics about whether they can smell or not. Because you hear the people go, "Well, sage is dumb because they can't smell the sage and all this." But I also like you say, I also have heard like the whole flower thing. Where they can't smell the flower. It's something that's pretty that they like. So
Yes, that.
there's still a lot of conflicting stuff out there. But I mean, it's starting to narrow down more and more. I'm an old folk now. It used to be I'd laugh because I was one of the younger people doing this, and now I find myself I'm getting like an old statesman doing this stuff now.
Oh, I'm older than you are, so let's
I
not even go there.
know.
I just turned 60.
You don't look 60.
May 17th, I just turned 60. I
Wow.
did. I swear on my life. And I had a late life baby at 46, so I still have a 14-year-old at home. I've got
Wow.
2 other grown children. But yes, so you're the baby of the bunch here, by the way. So we won't even go there. But I understand what you mean. I do understand, what you mean. And it's nice too that they have some new tools and things that they can use
Yes.
for that validation that are that are not so invasive to the spirit, but yet it's more validating to the person using it. Some of the not
Yes.
shadow boxes, what do they call them? The boxes, I can't think of the word, that they speak through.
Oh yeah, those SP11s and all that. Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. And they're getting really, really high tech with those, where they can almost kind of close out that background noise, that
Mhm.
sound, so that you can actually hear more of the voice of them, and that's very, very interesting, because it gives them a way to communicate back and forth. So you were talking about doing filming. So tell me about this. You had a show, or you were filming,
Yeah.
a show. So what was all of it? Were you like doing a documentary? Are you doing a series?
I was doing a
What?
series. I was doing a series of hour-long, maybe a 45-minute long paranormal investigation shows.
Oh wow, when was
And it's
that?
before just when Ghost Hunter started out. In fact, we started out at
Okay.
the same time, and that was for public access TV. The plan was at the time that I was going to like join all these different public access or people that I had working on my team who lived in
Mm-hmm.
different areas could join their public access places, and then we could like distribute this thing out. But it didn't work out because life got in the way, and then I had to shift gears. But at one time, I was filming another team, and we would go like some really cool places, in Northern California to do this, and some residentials and stuff. It was pretty fun. And I still have the footage here, and we've got some excellent footage. And someday I'm going to share it out. I have one bit of footage where we're in this hotel, and Ann Bender, who was the lead psychic on that team, was in this rocking chair. And the cameras I had at the time were Sony TRV 740s, real good cameras. That's what they were all using, and they have those are the ones that have true night shot, true infrared on them.
Oh wow.
And I'm filming, and she's in a rocking chair, and she's rocking back and forth. Every time she rocks, I think it was forward or back. I think
Nice
every time
sound effects. No,
I know I got a WD-40 in my chair. Unless
that's
someone
okay.
wants,
It was
unless,
perfect timing. It was great. Go
unless
ahead.
someone wants to donate some funds so I can get myself a nice red and black, gaming chair, right? With a
There,
little footstool.
there you
But
go.
anyway, I'm not big. I'm just saying. Uh, so every time she would rock back, I think it was back. Every time she would rock back, she would get blurry.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed over the years using those cameras that if a ghost appeared in front of the camera, everything would get blurry around it. So I knew what was going on. So she would rock back and she'd be blurry. She'd rock forward. And this went on for like 20 minutes. And then
Oh
I kept
wow.
moving the camera off to show that, hey, it's focused over here. But when she does that, So I said, hey, you're blurring out. And she says, yeah, I sat in something. And I said, well, what are you doing? She says, well, I'm not letting it in all the way. She says, I'm rocking out of it. And I'm rocking back and forth. And it was real sad because it was this woman that was pregnant and her
Oh,
husband was having an affair down the hall. It's this real old hotel. And so the woman would stand at the window and just stare out the window and rock in the rocking chair.
oh,
But I got like 20, 25 minutes of this footage. These cameras are cool. I mean, they will pick up ghosts. In fact, if you're out and about with them and filming, the batteries drain right away too. So you have to ask the ghost to put to put the power back in the batteries. But that's not the first time that camera's done that. I was filming at the Murphy's Hotel up in the ballroom. It was like 2 in the morning, and we were doing like a little seance thing with a shaman with us. And Jose, and I have the footage. One of our investigators, Jose, was across the way from me, and what I did was I took motion detectors and set them up all around the table. That way, I could see when the ghosts were coming and going, because it would trigger them.
oh,
So
wow,
as
very cool.
so as we're sitting there, and I'll give you an idea, all this famous people stayed at this hotel, like General Grant. A lot of the
Hmm.
people that were on the Titanic stayed at this hotel. John Jacob John
Astor,
Jacob Astor, and all those people, yeah, and
yeah.
stayed. Holly Brown, okay, they all stayed at this hotel at one time. Anyway, I'm watching Jose, and all of a sudden, he gets completely blurry. And at the same time, I say, Jose, you're blurry. He goes, I don't feel good.
Mm.
And I said, Jose, something is inside of you. Something is there. And that's when the psychic looked at him and said, oh my God, it's Grant. Grant is right there. And then you hear Jose say, you don't have permission to do this. I don't want you inside of me. This is rude. Get out. And right after he says that, he clears up.
Yep. Wow.
So I caught
That's,
I got it all on camera. So this camera, I still use them, as old as they are. I still use them out in the field because that tells me where stuff's at.
yes. Yeah. I would definitely keep using those cameras too. Something like that sounds amazing. Um, I was, you were talking about I had written something down that you were talking about some things that you had happened to you. Was it at did you say Nanoplaster, Massville? Nanceplaster? In the beginning, you were talking about something, a place that you had gone to. I'm probably not saying it right, but you've got so many cool places to talk about anyway. You can just keep going.
I've had a lot happen. I've had people ghosts run through me. The
Hmm.
Queen Mary. I just went out. I just went there as a lark before I was a ghost hunter, mind you. My friend and I were in Los Angeles, went to the Queen Mary, and took the ghost tour, which is silly because they rigged all the doorknobs to move. And so I'm thinking this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. And like that scene in Ghost Hunters when they got into a battle with the people in the Queen Mary because of the bed thing. Well, what they do is that bed is, I don't know how they do it. I don't know if it's with mirrors or how they do it, but you'll open the door, the bed's made, close the door, open it again, the bed's unmade.
Oh, wow.
And I know there was a thing about this on Ghost Hunters where the guys got really mad, so I still don't know how they do the effect. But I was walking through one of the dining salons, on the Queen Mary, and all of a sudden I got really ill and turned green, and I had to sit down. And the guide comes over and he says, "Well, what's going on?" I said, "I just all of a sudden I feel like I want to puke." And he says, "Well, that's funny because there's this little girl that fell overboard during during the Queen Mary's time at sea." And
Hmm.
he says that she has a tendency she's looking for her mother. So she has a tendency to run through women to find her mother.
Oh,
So that was the experience there. But Virginia City, they have a museum of ill repute.
oh,
And
really?
it's just like it sounds. Everything you can think of that has to do with ill repute is in there. But there's also something very dark in this museum that's up at the top rafters. And I didn't know this at the time. Again, this is before I was seriously investigating. I go into this museum, I come home, and like you say, I was gone. There was just no getting me up for like a week. I took such a hit out of it.
Hmm.
So even I have to be careful when I'm out. But like you said, there's so many places I've gone and so many places I've had experiences. Going in, even after having the experiences I had as a kid, I was still a skeptic. I'm a journalist. That's my job. I have to be kind of skeptical. But as I got older and started doing my own investigation and experiencing all this stuff, I believe, there's a lot going on out there. And I've taken enough psychic hits to prove it, and
Yes.
it's an incredible afterlife. My mother, when she passed away, I wanted to know when she was around. So I bathed. A lot of people bathe their dead after they die. So I thought, well, I'm going to give her a bath because I know my mom wouldn't want to be dirty when they took her. So I gave her a bath with a particular scented soap. So when she comes around, I can smell her.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And the day she died, my friends and I were out here in the living room, and they were here for moral support and stuff. So till my sister got here, and it didn't dawn on me that it was my mom, but we could smell this smell, and it was following me around the house, and I thought, what is this? And then it dawned on me finally. We went over to dinner, and I'm like, oh my God, it's my mom.
Yes.
And so so she comes back frequently. I can tell when she's here, or I'll be watching baseball because she loved baseball, and she'll grab my hand and dig her nails into my palm like she used to. Stuff like that. But getting back to the investigations, there've been so many now, and I'm so excited because I'm redoing my website. So it's all going to be up on my website eventually. And I've had so many experiences where I've been touched and pushed and shoved, and I was in this one place on the river. Yeah. This one place on the river doing a thing with another journalist for another newspaper. And I was alone. Everybody else went upstairs, and I was setting up all the monitoring cameras, and I had to go down to this speakeasy down in the bottom. And I didn't know the history. I try to not know the history when I go in cold like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I get down there, and I get to the bottom of the stairs, and I had one of my white California hot shirts on, and suddenly I got the feeling I shouldn't be there, that someone was coming towards me. And I said, I'm just putting the camera up. I'll be out of here in a second. And it got so bad that I even walked up the stairs backwards. Try to do that. Because I didn't want to turn around and have something behind me. Went back upstairs, shut the door and kind of sat there, trying to gather my thoughts. Went to the restroom. There were no drinks available, so I went in to get a drink, a drink out of the restroom. Put my head under the faucet. And as I put my head into the faucet, in my mind's eye, I saw a hand reach behind my head and slam it into the wall.
Oh, wow.
So at that point, I'm going outside for a while,
I know that's right.
So one of my friends who's psychic, I talked to her the next day after I got home. And then that same night, I came home because my sister took care of my mother. And what used to happen is, and this is something my mother wouldn't have known about at all, she comes out yelling. I go in to see what she's yelling about. She says, they're dumping the bodies in the water. They're dumping them in the river. They're dumping them in the river. And I said, what are you talking about? She had a dream, right? So I go do some research on there, and it turns out that it was a mob thing because it was prohibition. And what they would do is they would kill people and dump them in the river, dump the bodies in.
Oh, wow.
So my mom saw that, and she was already like 85 at that time. It was unnerving to have that happen.
No doubt.
But anyway, getting back to my head being slammed against the side of the wall, it was because here I'm wearing white, and supposedly I reminded this guy of his bride, who irritated him, and he killed her in that bathroom. He chased her through the building and then slammed her head against the wall to kill her.
Oh my
So
gosh.
that's what I saw. So there's been a lot of experiences. I've been to a lot of places that you've probably seen on TV, like the Brookdale Lodge, the Moss Beach Distillery. Some of those places. I've done a lot of those. But then there's places that we have, but that nobody's going to know about. But we're beginning to film our documentary again. And we're going to start doing the haunted hotels in Northern California. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great. If ever you decide to come to the South Carolina way, definitely reach out. I'll show you around a few places too, if ever you want to come to this side over here. And I'll definitely look you up if I'm on your side, because that could very well happen also.
Sorry, I'm talking so much. It's just fun.
No.
I don't get to be a guest. I get,
No, I love it. I love it. I love what we're talking about. I love hearing the story about your mom. That's so sweet. And that's true. They can do that. My mom leaves hairs. You and I've had this conversation, but yeah, they can leave signals or scents and things like that. But we're about 5 minutes to the top of the hour, where we're going to take a little bit of break. I know that you have a lot of other great stories, and please keep talking. You and I are friends. We're like having this casual conversation here, and everybody's just kind of listening in. So it's all good. And I'm enthralled. I'm really, really enjoying your story.
Lynn and I go back a couple years now. So
yes, we do. We do. Definitely do. I've been on her show a couple of times. She's going to come back on mine. definitely for sure. Is there, how can people, before we break, we've got like 5 minutes. Everybody, I definitely want you to check out Charlotte's site. Charlotte, can you tell them how to find you?
Since I don't have a website right now because it's being rebuilt, you can find me on Instagram under Ghosty Gal. You can find me at Facebook under all the California hot sites. Plus, my personal page is open, obviously, for people to see. You can find us over at TikTok under California Haunts, and I think we're Cal Haunts on Twitter and Cal Haunts at Twitch.
There you go. And you can also reach out to me if you can't get a hold of her in any of those other ways, and I'll make sure that she gets your message as well.
Yeah.
So, do you have any, like, I know that you're talking about the medicine bags that you're going to be doing. Also, you have that new club, for lack of a better word, that you're
Patreon.
doing.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
We have a California Haunts Radio Patreon. It's a $5.50 a month membership. But what we do is that I do a show every night, guys. I'm here Sunday through. Well, I'm doing a show Sunday through Friday, and so I have a lot of guests. And sometimes the guests can't book for the times that my show is. So what I'll do is I'll do pre-records. And so what I do with the pre-records is for the members of the Patreon, they get to go over and see these shows a week to 2 weeks in advance of everybody else. Plus, I'm going to get guests on. I'll probably ask Lynn at some point to do an extra show over there so that if there's questions in the chat room that people were afraid to ask or just didn't have time to ask, you know how you watch a show and you'll sit down and you go, dang, I should ask that, or dang, I'd like to ask that. This is the chance to get people on over there, and you can have an extra one-on-one with the guest.
Yes, and that's great.
So, yeah.
And the nice part, go ahead. I'm sorry. I was going to say the nice part about having the pre-records too is you can always rewind and listen again. So that's great too. But so the Patreon, they can find that through.
It's www.patreon.com/California Haunts Radio.
Okay, and she's going to repeat all of this at the end of the show, so people get your pens and paper out if you want to write it. All of this will be definitely covered again. And we are coming up on to 58 minutes, so we're going to go ahead and take a 5-minute break. There'll be some music playing so that the host and the guest and the producer can all get a drink of water and maybe take a potty break. Anyway, we're so happy that everybody is here tonight watching this amazing show with Miss Charlotte, and definitely any of you paranormal people, you want her on your show. So if you can't find her, get a hold of me and I'll make sure that I direct you over to her because she's got lots of really, really great stuff to talk about. So anyway, here we go. We'll see you in 5. Hi, everybody. We're back from our break. And Charlotte will be brought in shortly. It's Charlotte Sanchez Cosa from California Haunts. We're talking tonight everything from hauntings to investigating, what to do and what not to do when you're around dark malevolent forces. And yeah, we're going to go ahead and bring her back on to the show. There she is. Ta-da! Okay, everybody,
like
it's Charlotte. Yes, yeah, popping in and popping out, kind of like those ghosts we were talking about.
That's it.
But you were in the middle of telling a couple of stories, so please have at it.
One of the things you were talking about earlier was equipment. You were talking about the SP11 box. The other piece of equipment I like, but it's got to be used properly, is the Kinect camera. I call it the X-Cam. And what I mean by properly is because I'm not a person, and a lot of people are like me, I know. I don't read instructions. I can't stand it. So I'm going to point at things and figure out what the hell, triggers the camera and whatnot. So I've done a lot of practice with those things. And that's one of the things that you have to watch out for when you're out in the field, because they'll say that they will trigger on a chair that makes it look like a stick person sitting there. So what I decided to do with mine was I utilized my psychic team with the machine. So they actually interact. That way, if I have a psychic standing there and she says, well, shake my hand, and the thing reaches up and does this, in the camera, then we've got something. So that's the way I use them. And out of all the equipment that's out, besides the SP11, for communication, I think that's probably the best piece of equipment there is.
Wow,
when it's used right.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's relatively new, isn't it? I mean, yeah,
it's been maybe 2 or 3 years, but yeah, I swear by the thing.
Yeah. It definitely can validate things. In your investigations, I know that you had made mention that there was one demonic case that you were like, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah, good luck with your demons. We'll see ya. So but
we still get our shaman come in, but that night it was just like, that's when we went outside, and I told the guy, I said, it's weird because, and this is the other thing, I'll call psychics that aren't there. Just to make sure that I'm not losing my mind. And I had 3 psychics on the phone, and the one, when she says, she looks at, she's probably looking at me through the phone too, and she goes, it looks like a banshee. And that's when it hit, and that's when I went, okay, we're done. I'm done. But go ahead, what you were going to ask.
No. Go ahead. That's great. Have you? What would you say one of your hardest? Well, I don't know if hardest would be the word with investigations, but the one that stands out the most in your mind, maybe.
The one in Woodland at that house with that guy, as it took me a good month to figure out what the heck was going on. Because I was using this, I got a WD-40 in my chair.
No, that's okay. I like the sound effects.
I gotta get the WD-40. It's pretty bad. It's an old chair. I've had it for years. The one in Woodland, because I just knew the guy that had the tumor, because I couldn't figure out what was going on, because there was just so much poltergeist activity and stuff going on in the house. It was hard to tell, if there was any other ghosts in there or anything. And then we were doing, or they had given us a photo that they had taken, and that's a problem too, guys. And God bless you for taking your own art, of whatever might be in your house. But the problem is, as a ghost hunter, when we go out to take photos, we take 3 in a row in the same spot. Okay? Because the idea behind that is you won't see it, you'll see it, you'll see it. It's a sequence shot. When you just take one photo, it's easier for somebody to debunk that. And unfortunately, in this case, they had taken a photo of somebody in their dining room. And to me, it looked like their oldest son. course, I didn't tell them that because they're upset, right? But the photo, unfortunately, we couldn't use it for any kind of evidence or anything. That's the whole thing with ghost hunters. If we can't be on scene getting the photos, unfortunately, we're not going to believe the photo. And if you try to fake a photo, there's a way in Photoshop that we can go into Photoshop and we can see exactly what camera took the photo under what conditions and what the setting on the camera was.
Oh, wow.
So if you try to fake a photo, we'll know. But I'm not saying they faked the photo because I don't know. It's a really interesting photo, but there's nothing I can do because it's only one photo. But anyway, getting back to that house. So I knew there was at least one active ghost in there in addition to whatever was going on poltergeist style. So I do this thing, and it's water scrying, and I'm grounded, because we
Okay,
had that
well,
discussion.
and explain just real quick
And let me
what water
explain this.
scrying is.
Yeah, let me explain this. It's called ITC water technique. I think there's another name for it too. And what you do is you get a black pan, and you fill it with water. And
Black pen,
pan, like
a ballpoint.
No, like make your pancakes pan, or
pan.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm thinking PEN.
I talk.
No, you're fine.
So you fill it with water, and you get a bright light, or you could, if somebody has like an overhead light on their stove in the kitchen, one of those, you get a bright light, or somebody holds a flashlight, you hold the light up, and either you or the psychic will stir it, and then in the meantime, there's somebody taking flash photos of the water. And what happens is, in a lot of the cases, is that faces will appear in the water. But it's really meticulous work because usually the faces are like a half-inch big. And so you have to go through, like in Photoshop, and really enlarge it and then go, inch by inch on it to find them. But you will find really clear faces in the water. Really clear. It's fascinating.
Wow.
You should look it up, Lynn. Look it up online.
I definitely will. How do they get in there? I mean, are they looking over your shoulder, or, are they coming to the water because they're curious, or?
Well, water's an attraction anyway.
Yes, that's
for
true.
Spirit activity. So they're coming in through the water, and they're looking at it. I know one case I did out in Placerville, we actually got a ITC of a man with a beard and a mustache, and it turned out to be a former owner of this house that we were in. So the Woodland one, I'm doing these ITC work, and I picked up a gentleman with a mustache, and I also picked up what looked like a Winnie the Pooh doll.
Oh, wow.
There. And I thought, that's weird. I went in the son's bedroom, the one that was disabled, and he had the doll sitting on the floor. So I thought, well, what does this mean? There's this guy with this mustache, So that one took forever to figure out because the people were so paranoid too. Like every little thing was a ghost to them.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like they would call me and go, "Oh no, this is going on," or "This is going on." And I'm like, "Well, it's not paranormal. I'm sorry. Just calm down. Calm down." But it took forever. And I remember I was working with Nancy Matz and Trish on my team really closely on that case. And it took like a month or 2 months before I figured it out that it was poltergeist. With because the guy started the man was hallucinating that he was seeing his dead dogs and all this other stuff, and he was seeing children on his porch. And that's when it dawned on me finally that it was probably another tumor. But the kicker part of all this was, with this case was what we did at the very end, and I wish I would have had the cameras rolling because I didn't expect anything to happen. Trish and I, we went in with Trish, surrounded her in the guest bedroom, and the gentleman I described that had killed his mother by accident in the fire, he came in.
Oh, wow!
And so we decided to cross him over. He was willing to cross over because we told him that the man was sick and that he would get his head fixed, and therefore he wouldn't hurt the kids, because that was the whole thing. He was trying to protect the disabled son. Mm-hmm. And so I watched Trish, and I watched her. She was sitting in a chair. And I started to talk with him, and my friend Monica did too, who was there. And then Trish was channeling him, and you could tell she was channeling him. And so we're talking him over because the light at that point was off to our left. And I said, "Your mother is over in that light. She's waiting for you, and all that. You don't have to worry. She forgave you. It doesn't matter now. You don't have to stay here and protect these boys. We'll take care of it. I promise." And it was funny because he took his mother's hand.
Oh.
Trish put her hand out, and she stood up out of the chair, and she turned towards that light. And when he went through, he let go of her hand, and she fell back in the chair.
Oh, wow!
It's one of the most incredible things I've ever seen.
What a beautiful
And at
story
that
too.
point, you hear me say, "Trish, are you okay?" Because
Yeah.
I thought maybe it was
Yeah.
something she got hurt or something, because she fell back. But yeah, he had taken her hand to go to the light, and so we got him out of there. And
That's a
it was so
beautiful.
sweet because when we left, the son, the disabled son came over and hugged us all
Oh,
because
what
he
a
didn't see
beautiful
the ghost anymore.
experience.
Yeah, so we were able to solve that one. But that's probably the one I remember the most because it took so long to figure it out. It was like a puzzle. I just, no matter what I did, with all the evidence that we had gotten during the
Hmm.
investigation, and then what was going on with the father, and what was going on with the mother, and what was going on with whatever this other stuff that was going on. I just could not wrap my head around what was happening until it finally hit me that's what was
Oh,
going on. So yeah, that one I'm real proud of because we came out of that one. It's neat when you help people like that because you get a really good feeling. You feel relief for yourself, but you just feel so good, like you've accomplished something. And that's what ghost hunting is all about. I mean, for the majority of the teams that are good teams, that's what we do, just like with what Lynn does. When you can go out and help a family that's in distress like that, if it makes all the difference in the world, all the difference.
it surely does. And especially in the case that you were talking about, because there was also a disabled person that was helpless,
Mm-hmm.
in that way to even fully understand what was going on to protect themselves. And a lot of times they do get targeted.
Yeah.
So what a beautiful experience, and what a beautiful thing you did. I mean, it brings tears to my eyes. It's actually very, very sweet. So, wow, I'm in awe of that experience. What a beautiful, beautiful thing. Wow.
And it's like when we, go out, the priority cases are our cases that get priority. Like you say, the disabled boy, anybody that has children
Yes,
that are being
absolutely.
tormented by something, that's a priority to get out and help. Just
That's
to get out and
true.
do the best you can to help them because you don't want kids tormented. I mean, I've been yelled at. I've been told to F off by ghosts,
Oh yeah, me too.
quite a few times, and it's just funny because it's just you stand there and you go, no, I'm not going anywhere. So one of us is going to cross over tonight. It's not going to be me. I hope, when I'm out there. But yeah, I've had interesting. I also had a case where the husband was abusive, and
Hmm.
we found out through the deceased father that he was abusive. But in that case, the guy literally attacked us verbally in the house, and a bunch of women went out. A lot of my team, the majority is women. I have like 3 guys on my team. Guys, you want to join the team? I have space. It's always a bunch of women, and and on this particular night, a bunch of us went out, and this guy totally bullied us. He was going to grab his gun because his whole thing was, well, can't you show me the evidence right now? We want to see the evidence right now. We want to see the evidence. I mean, he was real nasty and belligerent. And so I looked at everybody. I said, "Pack it up." I mean, it got scary. I don't know if
Hmm.
he was drunk or what his trip was, but we felt afraid of this guy. So we literally packed stuff up. Didn't even put in the right boxes. We just threw it all together and took off on this guy. And then the wife called later on and said, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Can you come back?" Nope.
Yeah,
But you run into that stuff too because you don't know what you're going to hit. You're going into somebody's house.
that's very, very true. And
But
yep,
go ahead.
that's very, very true. And
Go ahead.
the thing is those things, the spirits that are influencing the people don't want you there.
Mm-hmm.
They know ahead of time that you're coming.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? They
Yep.
know before you hit that doorstep that who you are and that you're coming. I mean, in the world of dark things, and I don't like using the D word very, very often, but a lot of them know us by name. You know
Yes.
what I'm saying? They do. So yeah, when you definitely, I just lost my train of thought because as we were talking before too, they like to be acknowledged, but they don't like being exposed.
Right.
So they tinker with things, and they've been messing, with us earlier. We had a conversation, but I lost my train of thought. But you go ahead. I want to hear what you have to say.
Well, yeah, and getting back to dark things and stuff going on, the ghosts know when you're coming because the people in the
Hmm.
house will have a conversation. Oh, we called the paranormal group out. So a lot of the time when you go out, nothing's going on. They won't come out. They don't
Yep.
come out on cue. So you could be over there and sit there, and like unlike TV, we did this house in Vacaville, I think, yeah, Vacaville, and the woman had been complaining because she was on a CPAP machine that she could feel a heaviness on her chest at night, and that something was taken off the mask. And I said, okay. So we investigated the house. Turns out the noises she was hearing, because I left the recorder running all night one night, and you could hear something falling to the floor and running around. And so, of course, I get in there with my fluorescent light, because I said, "Oh, I think you have rats." And when people right away, "Oh, no, 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 we're not going to have that." Sure enough, that's what they were. You could hear them on the recording.
Oh my gosh.
So we finally go in to do the official investigation, get all that done. And I remember going into her garage, and the rats were in there. And as I was walking around, you know how people have stuff hanging from the rafters?
Mm-hmm.
And she had tables. I could see stuff as I was walking around. The rafter stuff was moving, the stuff that was hanging.
Oh my
and I thought, "Oh,
gosh.
she's got rats." So that night, we decided to do a vigil. I put an investigator in the bedroom with her. She went to bed like 8 o'clock at night. I sat at the command center, and we spent until 7 o'clock the next morning watching this woman sleep, right? That's what you don't
Mm-hmm.
see on TV. As it turns out, she had this cat.
Mm-hmm.
And when she would go to bed at night, the cat would crawl up on her chest, and it would play with that mask.
Oh, wow.
So that was her ghost. That was her cat. But that's the stuff you don't see on TV. You don't see the long hours that you get stuck at these things watching people just sleep.
Yeah, that's true. And
You know?
all of the time that's invested. And I know that, 90, I mean, most people go out and will do these things for free. A lot of times too, when people are in these situations, they can be easily taken advantage of by
Mm-hmm.
people too. And when I go out and clear things, I do it for free.
Mm-hmm.
I don't ask anything, but with my time and getting hundreds of emails and taking the time to read them and reach out to the people, and the people want to tell you their whole life story, which is fine,
Yes.
and you kind of need to hear it because you need that background on it. Takes hours sometimes, and with so many people to help, sometimes a donation is a nice
Yes.
thing because
Yes.
because you can't work and sit there and help them. So, and it's not that the actual clearing part is going to cost anything,
Right.
but yes, a consultation, if you're going to spend hours of your time putting things together, giving them pointers, giving them some guidance on what they need to do to prep before the clearing and what to do after the clearing and not to do, I mean, what's $20 or $30?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Really. So I mean, your time is valuable also, because I've heard a lot of people talk and they're against, charging to clear a house. Yeah, I agree with that because it's more of a spiritual thing coming from
Right.
the heart, and it's
Right.
more effective that way. But
Right.
if you're going to consult with someone, you're also counseling, and counselors get paid and psychics get paid for readings and things like that. So everybody's time is valuable, especially, if the person needs to talk to you more than once or twice or 3 or 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you do have to put a few boundaries on there that way.
And you bring up a good point, because people want to tell you their life stories, but that's because when somebody's in a stressful situation and they've got no one to talk to, let's say your mother sees a ghost in the house and she doesn't want to tell anybody because she thinks, they're going to make fun of them. And she finally gets a ghost hunter out there that she can communicate with and talk, because it's a one-on-one. She's going to tell her whole life story.
Of
Because
course.
it's a relief.
Yes.
And so that's what we do. Like Lynn says, we sit there, we hear all that stuff. And sometimes we might take 2 or 3 trips out there. The first trip's for the initial, second trip with the team, and then we go back and do the post with the results, or the psychic goes out and does her thing to clear it up. So yeah, it could be multiple trips. I don't ask for money on these things. If somebody wants to donate, I'm fine with that. But in fact, I don't even take it. I've had people offer me donations before we even finish the investigation, and I won't even do that. I always tell them, I say, we haven't done anything for you yet. Until we can do something to help you, I'm not taking anything.
Right. And if you're satisfied with our work, then consider it then. What do you do we kind of touched on this, like what do you do in the cases of people like you've had to go back more than once? People have to understand, it's not because what you did was not effective.
Mm-hmm.
It's because the red carpet was rolled back out in maybe even an innocent way, maybe not an intentional way, but like you said, them refocusing, and they, again, a paper blows off the table and they automatically assume that the ghost is back, but they're not noticing that the window's open, the breeze coming through. So they accidentally do draw them back.
Mm-hmm.
But, a lot of times too, I mean, places that I've cleared, and on occasion, some things have, entered back in because of the people in the household, and they, they're not grateful for you being there sometimes, trying to help them. They don't, it's not like you can call the Ghostbusters.
Right.
You have to call somebody outside of the box because, like you said, people will think that they're woo woo, type thing. And, so they have to reach out and trust. And, it just, yeah, donations are a good thing. So,
Well, that's the other thing too. I've spent years building my team up. And that's one of the reasons is because like having the newspaper reporter background that I have, people can get under a lot of stress. You're dealing with people's emotions, even with news articles. Even sometimes, when a news article is written wrong and they put a correction on page 2 at the bottom of the page, sometimes that doesn't even fix things because people get so stressed out by wrong information. So what I've done, with my team is it's taking me years to amass the staff. I have 2 psychologists on my staff as well. I have nurses on my staff. So when I go on investigating, just like some people are easier, deal with kids easier than others.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm able to pick and choose after I do the initial thing. I can go out and say, okay, I'm going to send so-and-so out on this case because it's a 5-year-old kid, or if if I feel like they're really stressed out, I might send one of the nurses out, someone that has that kind of background, because it does help. I have a former police officer who was a hostage negotiator on staff.
Oh, wow.
So it's a pretty full staff, and I'm glad I have it.
Yeah, I told you, everybody, she's a big deal. Charlotte, she's a big deal. California Haunts. Be sure to look her up. Be sure to join her Patreon group. Be sure to go to her class on Saturday. Big deal, everybody. Big deal. And she's the real deal. So, and again, she's highly respected in the community and amongst the paranormal family. So, yeah, she's a real deal.
I've been doing it for a long time, Two is you can get cocky. I've seen people that have been doing this for a while. They get cocky. Oh yeah, I can figure this case out right away, and blah blah blah. That's where you can get in trouble. You have to always be humble when you're doing this stuff, and like you say, respectful, because it's always something different. I had a good friend of mine, Gloria Young, who passed away a few years back, and she ran one of the groups in the Bay Area out here, and she came to a lecture. How I met her really was she was at my library doing a lecture when I was first starting my team. And that's what I did when I started my team. I went to different events by other teams so I could see what the game was with other teams and the equipment and stuff. And she had been around for a long time. She'd done TV shows and stuff. And the thing that hit me with her is she says, if anybody comes out here and says they're an expert, run.
Yeah, that's right.
Nobody is an expert in this field. It's an exact science. There's no experts. None. And that really stuck with me over the years. And so
that is so true.
Yeah, I applied that to this day.
That is so true. And some of the things too that we were talking about the newer equipment.
Yes.
There really hasn't been a lot of scientific based study into the supernatural and paranormal and even hallucinations for that matter. In some cases there are real hallucinations, and sometimes it's people that are seeing through the dimensions and or that are gifted. Like when we walk into a place at a bar and we can see spirits, we're not schizophrenic, we are gifted, and they're God-given gifts. They are not something from the devil. God gave everyone these gifts, and either you've had them nurtured or not. And talking to you even about the 5-year-old thing, it is so important for parents to empower their children when they're in a haunted type setting.
Yes.
If your child comes to you more than once and describes the same thing, and it's something that seems to be disturbing them, the main thing to ask them is, number one, is it scaring you? And number two, is it telling you to do something that you're not supposed to? And if the answer is yes to either or both of those, then there's a problem. And most parents try to settle the child and say, oh, it's your Aunt Lulu or your guardian angel coming to visit you. If it was their Aunt Lulu or their guardian angel, it wouldn't be standing at the foot of their bed, shaking their bed, scaring the bejesus out of them, pulling off their covers.
Yep.
So parents have to understand that just because, and children being younger, their filters have not formed fully as they face on the other side, and when they're getting closer to death. But the thing is just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's there. Listen to your kids and pay attention to your animal's behavior.
The other thing to remember with children too, children are born with their abilities on, the radar's on. So they're more apt to see stuff in the house that you're not going to see. The thing is, as you get older, because you get so involved with your life and doing other stuff, you kind of put it in the back of your mind, those abilities. But they're there. But with kids especially, I have done so many, gone to so many houses where the child is psychic.
Yes, absolutely. And too, a lot of times traditional religion has parts to play in it where they're telling them, no, there's nothing there.
Right.
I remember going through a jaunt at 10 years old and being brought in front of the elders of this church and being told that there was something wrong with me because I was seeing things. And it scared me so bad that even though I was still kind of seeing things, I would run out of the room just as fast as anybody else, thinking that it was a demon or a ghost, even if it was my grandmother's spirit, something warm and loving. So listen to your kids and empower them. Give them a hymn or some kind of spiritual song to hum, or just simply tell them to sit up and point their finger and say, get out of my room. You are not invited here. A lot of the spirits, they have to have that invited word in there. And if they're not invited, you tell them that they're not invited and that they need to leave right now.
Absolutely.
Hands down.
I was just thinking when you said it about your religion, I did a case a few blocks from my house, and the woman was Jehovah's Witness.
Oh, that's what it was. Yes, me. At 10 years old, my mother went from Presbyterian to Jehovah's Witness, and that's exactly what it was. But go ahead. I want to hear this.
And she had activity in her house, and she knew it. And when we went out to the investigation, in fact, I went out with the other team, and then I went out with my own team a second time a few years back. She, because of her religion, would not believe. She says, I see the stuff happening. I hear it happening. I hear what you're telling me, but I can't wrap my head around it because of my religion. And yes. That's where you have to go, okay, well, we've presented you with what we have. This is all we can do for you. It's up to you to decide what you want to do. Do you want us to come out and cleanse the house, or what would you like us to do? We never heard from her again, so I don't know what they did. But it's hard when you run into stuff like that.
It is. It surely is. And, in that particular religion, they don't believe that there's any kind of afterlife. They believe that when you die, you just die, and then you're going to be recollected in when Armageddon comes and the 144,000, get to be rebirthed, which is why when they come to my door wanting to sell watchtowers, I ask them, I say, well, if you recruit me and there's only 144,000 that's going to be resurrected in your new order, recruiting me, isn't that lessening your odds?
I always tell the class, I said, you realize I'm a ghost hunter, and the eyes get like saucers.
Yes, yeah, they do. And I'm not trying to make fun of them. I mean, there's a purpose for them on this earth too, and whatever there's, whatever point they're supposed to be getting. Religion in itself is like a pie, and they're all sections and pieces, and they're gathered with a gold string. And certain people, they get this piece and then they move on to a different piece and get something else. So they're all important pieces, but that particular religion is a hard one, because I was a child growing up in that, and they terrified me.
Yeah.
They did. I was so relieved to grow up. I mean, I actually suffered from post-traumatic stress to the point for many, many years I couldn't even walk into a church for a wedding. I felt suffocated. I would have anxiety. So it was that bad. But yeah, definitely. I mean, and why would somebody like that even call for help? They don't believe that there's anything there anyway.
I thought, well, you're obviously believing something because we're out here. But I mean, this is all we can do. This is what we have. This is what we found. And, it's up to you. The other thing I was thinking too about that, with those lines, I was talking, I was listening to another show last night, or maybe it was this one earlier, about people faking evidence. just to get the ghost hunters out there. I had a case in the Bay Area. In fact, my former cop went with me, which made it even funnier. And she and I went out there, did the prelim, came out, set up the cameras, did the investigation, and it seemed like we were hitting on. We didn't get anything. We didn't get any EVPs. There was nothing. I thought, well, maybe it's one of those nights where, it's just not going to happen for us. I'm sitting there watching the footage, and I saw somebody walk in front of the camera. I don't think they knew the camera was there. And they opened a drawer and then walked out. Like they figured we were going to see this drawer and
walk in and find it open.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I
yeah.
caught it. There's stuff like that. The other thing is the celebrity that goes along with it. There is a celebrity. There's a certain celebrity that goes along with it because of the ghost hunting shows. It's a romantic thing to be a ghost hunter. We did a restaurant up in Placerville, and the owner at the time brought like 12 of their friends there to watch the investigation.
Mm-hmm.
How can you do that with 12 people murmuring you're trying to get EVPs? So what I did, I thought, well, we're just going to run it like a TV show. So I sent everybody off and I said, okay, every 15 minutes, come back, check in, tell them what you felt, tell them what you found. We're just going to go with that. And that's how we did it, because I'm not going to sit there and look at 15 people and go, get out.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so that's how we ended up doing it. But sometimes it can have its pitfalls because, like you say, people like to be in the house with you because they want to either be involved or see what you're doing.
That's true. That's true. And it makes it harder. It really does for us, because we are the ones that are constantly under attack. And I mean, they're waiting for us when we get there. What Charlotte had mentioned, that, when you go in and you're sitting down for that first kind of, when you're talking with people and trying to, put some pieces together, they will hide. Everything will be docile. It'll be, nice and quiet. But when you're coming in to actually remove them, they are present and ready for you.
Mm-hmm. They're waiting.
Yep, they're waiting. They know that you are coming. Absolutely. So, and I've seen that proof again and again. You'll walk in, there'll be flies all over the windows, or they leave a calling card that's very, very obvious.
Yes.
So definitely.
When we were talking about equipment earlier,
mm-hmm.
I was just thinking about some of the equipment that's out there. Like I said, I like the SB11, and I love that Connects thing. But guys, there's something you got to remember for ghost hunting. All the tools we use, except for maybe the specialized ones that what's his name makes, that guy from TV makes, they've all been used in practical stuff. You'd be surprised what they're used for. The blue thermometers that we started out using were used with air conditioning technicians.
Wow.
And then when I started my group, I started mine on a budget.
Mm-hmm.
So I went on eBay, looking at thermometers, and I found a cooking thermometer. The blue one for the air conditioning thing was $70. And I thought, I can't afford, 3 or 4 of those. I'm going to go bankrupt. So I started perusing and everything, because you want one with a probe on the end and all that.
Mm-hmm.
I found a cooking thermometer for $5.95 that was only like 3 degrees off from what the air conditioning thermometer was measuring.
Oh, wow.
And that's what I bought. I bought a whole bunch of these $5.95 thermometers. And just like all the EMF readers, those are used by electricians and stuff. It's all practical stuff. So everything you're using out in the field is all practical.
Yes, and infrared too.
Yeah, and infrared too. And like I said, unless it's built by Bill, what's his name? That guy, I can't remember his last name. But unless it's built by that guy, mm-hmm. which is built specifically for this, what you're buying is just stuff you would use normally. Stud finders or whatever, for paranormal investigating. So
that's very true. And with that, I'd like to mention there's some friends of mine. Their last name is Horn, and her husband has actually created some very, very useful equipment that he's making on his own. And forgive me, they do have a title for their business. Right. I don't have it right now, but I am going to get it for the next shows, or you can reach out to me and I'll get that information for you so that you can contact them and purchase, through them some customized things as well that are really, really great. So yeah, definitely.
I've used some crazy stuff. I have this, and I don't know if you can get them anymore. They used to make these things called butterfly and firefly in a jar. And what they are is they're a butterfly that hangs off a wire.
Oh, okay.
And you put the batteries in the top of the jar, and the way to trigger them is you tap the top of the jar, and it triggers the butterfly. So I used to get the firefly ones because they glowed in the dark.
How
Well, the
cool
ghosts
is
love them.
that?
The ghosts love these things. I have a recording from this residential that we did where I'm tapping on the jar and you can hear the ghost go, "What is that?" And then you hear him say, "That's really cool."
Hmm.
In the meantime, you can ask yes and no questions with this so they can tap the top.
There you go.
It's really cool to watch. So there's stuff like that where you can get normal stuff in your house and use it for ghosts. You don't have to pay a lot of money out to go ghost hunting.
I want one.
We the only reason why I have things that light up is because when we were filming, that's what you
Mhm.
want, the infrared, so you can see the lights come like the K2 meter, things like that. But otherwise, I mean, everything else I have, I mean, it's just normal stuff. But yeah, you have to look it up on eBay for firefly in a jar. That's what you got to look at. Firefly.
That is so cool. I want one.
Yeah, pretty
Also,
cool.
you were talking about that you're getting ready to start doing some series
Yes.
or documentaries again. Would
Yes.
you like to talk a little bit about what's coming up in the future?
Yeah. After my mother passed, because I'm a photographer and videographer, I also took sound recording, uh, studio engineering. So that's why I have my show set up.
She's a big deal.
Because I built my own little mini recording booth in my other back room. This is where I'm sitting right now. I built it out of a closet, but I also put a video photography studio in the other back bedroom. So what we're going to start doing, because we haven't been out in a while, I took a break, and I had a lot of deaths in my family for a while there. So I've been down about maybe a year and a half from investigating. I did one, I think, about a year ago, but we're getting back out. But for this documentary, what we're going to do is I'm going to be filming each one of my investigators for like a 5-10 minute interview, because I want everybody to get to know them and get to know their backgrounds and get to know why they do this and stuff. So that's one of the projects I'm going to be working on. And then we're going to start going to as many hotels as we can. And we'll probably, I don't know if it's going to be an hour documentary or if I'm deciding to maybe do it in a show format and do like 5 or 6 videos, just as a California Haunt show again at these old hotels. But we're going to start doing that. And that's going to start probably in August, as we get towards the end of tourist season at these hotels. Because it's hard. You get tourist season and they don't want to give up their bookings either. So it's only fair.
That's true.
So I'm going to start doing that. And so I'll have our shows dedicated to each hotel of us investigating in there and seeing what's in there. And I know the Murphy's Hotel up here, they just did a bunch of renovations. So that ought to be interesting.
Yes, because renovations kind of wake them up a little bit, too. So, that's really great. Wow, how exciting that is all coming up. And you said you're going to be starting to do that in August, and you're going to do a series of how many shows?
Probably five or six hotels. Yeah, so it'll be like a monthly show.
Oh, great. So it'll be a show once a month, or like, okay. Wow.
Because it takes a long time. It takes a long time to edit, to get that stuff down. Plus, again, like I was saying with the cameras, blurring up like they do. Mm-hmm. That's the issue with that too, is that you have to shoot double and triple the footage because the cameras, are doing that. I mean, it's nice they're blurring up because the ghosts are there. Thank you very much, but it screws up the rest of the footage. So you have to take all that extra time to shoot all that extra stuff. So we're going to be doing that. And then TikTok, Karen Clark and I, Karen Clark is one of our lead field psychics. She and I are going to start doing a lot more on TikTok. Right now on TikTok, I read I was going to talk to you about that too. I read a paranormal themed book every Sunday. And I have a pretty good audience. I don't know what it is. People like to hear me read. So that happens every Sunday at 6:30. And so it's always some paranormal themed book, whether it's true stories, based on true stories, or whether it's just a fantasy paranormal book. I read every Sunday. So
I hope. Would you like to read my book? I would love that.
That's why I said I need to talk to you about your book.
Yeah. We'll definitely get together.
To do that. To get permission.
Oh,
to do that.
yes. You have.
We're going to be starting Anna Marie Manalo's The Visitants. On Sunday.
Wow.
We're just starting that one. The last one we did was Reign No Evil. That was a really good book, and that's the stuff that happened to this woman over a month's period of time. And you guys have to read it. It's a pretty good book. But we do that anyway. So, I lost my train of thought. See, it happens to the best of us. But so I read from these books. That's something. Oh, TikTok. So I'm doing that on TikTok every Sunday now, even though I got banned 2 Sundays ago. I don't know what I got banned for. But I'm doing more on TikTok. I talk about my lifestyle. I talk about growing up psychic on TikTok. There's funny videos. But Karen Clark and I are going to be doing ghost stories and stuff over there on a regular basis. And she's going to start doing readings on TikTok.
Oh, that's great.
So that's coming up. So we got a lot
Yes.
going on, between getting everybody ready to film and then actually going out and filming on location and then doing the TikToks and then doing the show every night. Yeah, and then I'm seriously also considering doing a morning meditation as well.
Oh, wow. That would
You know,
be great.
live. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, keep in touch with me on that because I will be happy to advertise that for you on my
Okay.
media as well and bringing it up. We also, you know, I always try to bring people in, including our producer who has a book out that he's recently done some beautiful etchings and drawings. I don't know if he has a picture that he can pop up on the screen real quick. It's by Rex Nielsen. If anybody wants to buy one, they can reach out to him to get that. And I'm trying also to reroute people away from Amazon because Amazon is changing, and Amazon was, well, we won't go there to begin with. They're not real big on, paying authors. And I know people, there's sometimes they're turned off by the fact that maybe an author is trying to advertise their wares, but what they realize is you get pennies on the dollar for it. And most of the stuff on Amazon you can read for free if you've got Kindle. So it's not like you're making, I mean, this is my house and my kitchen. This is my office area that I do my stuff in because the lighting's great. But you can see I don't have fancy granite countertops. I drive a Toyota Corolla. I don't drive a BMW. So it's not as lucrative as people think that it is.
Yeah.
But I am thrilled. I definitely want to touch base with you because I also wanted to do some additional things on TikTok and wasn't really sure how to get started with all of that. But it sounds like, yeah, a morning meditation would be great
Yeah.
for people. The story thing sounds absolutely wonderful as well. I wanted to, we're going into the last 15 minutes. I want to
Sure.
give the last 10 minutes for you to tell about how people can get in touch with you. Then I'll follow up with how they can get in touch with me. But in that last 5 minutes, is there anything that you would like to recommend to people if they're in a haunted house of what to do or not to do, or anything that you would like to share that might help somebody?
What I would suggest before you let somebody into your house, because there's a lot of teams, you have your teams that are believers, so they're going to find something ghostly in your house, whether there is or not. You got the teams that are full of debunkers, and that's obvious what they're out after. You want to find a well balanced team, and so you want to really, when you call somebody, you really want to look at their website and talk to them about what they do and what they're going to do. I have a little brochure that I have for people that I can email them and they can see exactly what steps we're going to take when we go to the house. The other thing is if you can get references, be sure to get references. You just don't want anybody in your house. There's a lot of stories out there about like Lynn was saying earlier, paranormal teams that go in and take advantage. Maybe somebody that has $200 hidden in a shoe, and the poor people come back after the investigation. They realize the 200 is gone. You don't know who you're letting in your house, so you have to be really careful about letting people in your house. And that's one of the cautions I give because I've heard horror stories about that. You really
Absolutely.
look for the experience. How many investigations has this team done? How long have they been around? Because a lot of people go out and they don't realize how much work goes into investigating. And so a lot of teams will start, but then they won't finish your investigations or right away they disappear because they realize how much work it is and the tremendous responsibility of going out. So you
Right.
have to check everything. And if you're a new investigator who wants to get into it, look for a team like mine. I'm forever teaching ghost hunting 101 classes. Not everybody has to do it like my team does. I'm not saying I'm anal, but there's a certain stuff that we do that I like it done a certain way. But learn from a team that's been around for a while.
Yep. Well seasoned.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, I remember doing a restaurant up in the Placerville area, and we went up there to do it for a newspaper article as well. And I remember the owner saying, "My God, you guys are so different. The last scene that came out didn't even have batteries for their video cameras. They had to go to the store and get them." I mean, they were that new to just paranormal junkies going out. And I call them paranormal junkies.
Mhm.
But that's what you want to avoid because I mean, this is your house. This is your kids. This is you. Just like the other thing I want to talk mention real quick too, poltergeist activity. We'll go back to that. Kids that are going through puberty will cause that. And always when I'm going into a house, if I know they have kids, I always get the age of the kids because I want to find out. What's interesting is there's 2 videos that I keep in stock so I can show people. One is the Waltons. Some of you guys will remember the Waltons.
I do.
She and I remember the Waltons. But there's a particular episode called The Changeling. And it's about Elizabeth turning 12. And weird things are happening at the Walton house. And the one that figures it out is Corey Beth Godsey. And it's all about Elizabeth going through puberty. Now, there's also a Bionic Woman episode about the same thing. And if people ask me, about that, like, what do you mean my son's going through this or whatever? And I say, I have a video to show you. Watch this. This will tell you, what's going on. So that's something else to watch out. I know I deviated, but that's something else
this is great. Please keep going, with this.
That's something else to watch out for.
It's crucial.
But there's things to watch out for, and there's logical ways to look at stuff too. I mean, if you're like Lynn said, if you're hearing knocking in the wall, you call a plumber. Find out, maybe it's your piping. Just like a lot of older places, older hotels, like from 1800s and stuff. When they put insulation in, they didn't put insulation in the walls all the way to the top. The insulation only went up so far in these places. So that's why you get a lot of drafts and stuff. Okay. And remember too that if you have wooden, like wooden furniture or wooden walls in your house, that wood will hold energies. It'll hold smells. It'll hold everything like that. So if you get a phantom smell or something, maybe your father or somebody smoked. And then every once in a while you get a whiff of it. It could be paranormal, but it could also be locked in that wood grain. So that's something else you got to look at. So I mean, you could debunk stuff yourself if you want to debunk stuff yourself. I mean, it's fairly easy to do that. But like I said, make sure when you call a team out that they have a good reputation and that you can get references and that they've been around for a while.
That is so important, and just to add to that, and because I totally agree with you on that. When you are in a situation, especially if you're a single mother with children and you are in a situation like that, you're desperate to have your house, to regain your house and with your kids. And if somebody comes and says, oh, well, I'll take them out for $1,000, you start pulling money out of the ATM in your butt. If you have to, not to be gross, but you find the way to pay it because you want to have that peace of mind and have your home be your haven. And then all of a sudden they come and they do a little bit of holy water, if it is even holy water, and a little bit of sage, and they leave, and then they rile up the ghosts and even make it worse, which a lot of religions that come in to do these blessings and clearings, because they're not completed, end up riling up the ghosts more so than making them leave and settle them. And I'm sure that you have found that in a lot of cases as well. So it just, and then all of a sudden you try to call them. Well, what are you going to do? Take them to court? These people came to get ghosts out of my house. They'll greet you with the men in white coats and take you off. Think you're crazy, and then they turn around and they say, oh, well, we'll come back, but it'll cost more, or you must have done something to have it come back.
Right.
Yeah, and you've got to be sure.
I did have someone on my team who didn't last long, who would go out and we would do the investigation, and this person would say, okay, I take $300 so that I can cleanse your house. And I said, why would you do that? I didn't see that, I just thought it was terrible because I thought, what if somebody can't afford to have their house cleansed and then they're stuck with this thing? You can't do that.
Yes.
So that situation did not last long.
Right. And most of the time they are in this situation that they can't afford it, because part of having that negativity and those spirits around, they want to, first of all, alienate you so that they break up marriages and relationships, to alienate you. They want you to stay depressed. They want you to continue to have money problems. So they keep you so that you can't defend yourself and get somebody to do that. And that's why it's so important, like Charlotte said, and Charlotte's the real deal, everybody. She's a big deal. So she's definitely the Ghostbuster to call. If you're in California and you go that way, how far do you go to, and how far do you go into other states or anything like that?
Actually, we do. We have people up and down the state in almost every county. We also have a branch in Oregon. We have a branch in Washington. We have a branch in Hawaii. And I have a branch in Nevada.
Wow, that's great. And I didn't even know that. So that's great to know, because I'll definitely reach out to you. I get people that contact me in those those areas sometimes. And I'm like, well, who do I know? I know people in Canada, but I don't know, so I will definitely refer it to you. We are coming into the last 7 minutes, and I wanted to give you an opportunity. Everybody get your pens and paper out to write these things down. To tell them how to get in touch with you. Again, what you have coming up on the Sunday stories and the Saturday, the morning all of it, so that they can reach out to you.
Sometimes I forget you. I do the beginning of my show where I spout them all off. And then by the time the guest gets on, I'm like, you can find me on Facebook under my name, Charlotte Cosa. There's a Charlotte Sanchez Cosa page for my writing. But there's also California Haunts pages. So if you type in California Haunts Paranormal, we'll pop right up. You can find us, of course, at Meetup, which is where I do all my classes through. Meetup.com. So that's California Haunts Paranormal Investigation Team over there. Again, Facebook is California Haunts, or under my name. Instagram is under Ghosty Gal. It's all lowercase. So you can find me over there. You can find me at TikTok under California Haunts. I believe Twitter is either Cal Haunts or California Haunts, and then I know Twitch is Cal Haunts. And like Lynn says, I got a lot coming up. In fact, I even have a book that I'm in the process of writing, but I'm not. I'm just in the first couple chapters. But we are going to be again. The Patreon. Thank you.
Yes, Patreon.
Yes, if you want to join the Patreon, because we're looking for. So far, I got 3 members over there, so we're trying to build the Patreon up. Like I said, the perks are that you will get to see pre-recorded stuff 2 weeks ahead of time of everybody else. We'll do these special interviews. I'm going to talk to Lynn in a little while to see if I get her on over there, and do some special interviews with some of the more popular guests that we have. We're also going to do giveaways, and that's one thing. When we get enough members, when we hit 20 or 50 members, I'm going to give away California Haunts merchandise, and I might give away paranormal investigation equipment like K2 meters and things like that. As part of incentive for the people that sign up over there. So that's a little bit more incentive. And that's at patreon.com/California Haunts Radio. We have a YouTube page, and it is youtube.com/@California Haunts Radio. So you can find us over YouTube. And then, let's see. Well, that's it. I think I got it covered now.
Okay. And again, you can reach out to me if you can't get a hold of Charlotte. She's got a busy lady, got a lot going on. Definitely going to have her back. And after the show, if you want to meet me in the green room, we'll hang for just a little bit. Yeah. But because I want to offer some donation of books for that thing, that also when you get to 50, if you want to give that as one of the awards too, I'll be happy to donate that. But also, you can get a hold of me at www.lynnmonet.com. My books can also be purchased there. The Gap is not on that website yet. It's on Amazon. But the Gap, I found that there's a few editing errors. Well, more than a few. So I'm actually trying to pull it to have it re-edited. And I would rather have people kind of wait to buy it and once it's fully completed. Mm-hmm. So, but it is an excellent book. And also, I can be reached to schedule consultations with me at Omnipresent, OMNIPRESENT.book, BOOK@gmail.com. I can be reached there. Please give me a day or so to get back with you. And if it's, again, if you can't find me, you can reach out to Charlotte, and she'll help find me too. And also, please, definitely, I want to mention too that a friend of mine also has a great book on hoodoo out. Her name is Miss Aida. So please look for her book if you're having issues also with cleansing and keeping your aura clean and things like that. She's got a couple of books out, but definitely it's an excellent book. So you might want to, definitely check into purchasing that as well. So anyway, thank you so very much for being here tonight. Everybody, thank you for being here. Woohoo for Charlotte.
Thank you.
Like,
Thank you for asking.
Yeah, like that. She is all that. Okay. So she's very humble, very sweet, very kind. But I'm going to tell you, she really is the real deal. She is all that. Obviously, you know, she has a lot going on because people respect her and want to hear what she has to say. So, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and close. Have a good night, everybody. Tuesday night, 8 o'clock next week. My guest is going to be Brandon Cooper. He's shaman Brandon Cooper, and we should have another great show Tuesday night. So we'll see you then.
Thanks,
Night,
everybody.
everybody. Bye bye.